Warning, this show contains adult language. Welcome to another edition of Up and In It. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show is about, it's entirely dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life on your own terms. All right, I think a lot of us are going to want to start saving money. We're going to start making things more useful. We got to start living more sustainable, more resilient, because these hard times, get difficult. But even if they weren't, I think that why not utilize everything that you have? I talk a lot about running your life like a business and saving money, saving your time, getting more health, and just making more use of your time. And today I want to talk about food, utilizing it to the fullest extent instead of having waste. Because what is waste? It's not our friend, people. Let's get into how to render animal fats is my very first line here. Basically, when you're cooking your bacon and stuff like that, this is something that's discarded. When you're cooking, say, beef, when you're cooking chicken, anything, the fats are really, really tasty and they're very healthy for you, especially if you're eating grass-fed animals. So if you are eating grass-fed, healthy animals and you want to save the fats for cooking and stuff like that, this is how you do it. You're going to take all your bacon grease, let's just say if you fry this up in a frying pan, and what you're going to do is get yourself a glass jar and you're going to keep this in the refrigerator. You can do this with all fats too, so to make this not so long, what you're going to do is you're going to pour that fat into a strainer, get all the black bits, the burnt parts and everything like that. Use just a little wire conical shaped strainer. Pour this into your jar, let it sit for a while, and as soon as it starts to cool down, put a lid on it, put it in the fridge. You can actually save this stuff up for like up to 6 months. You could do this with chicken fats. You could do this with beef fats. So what I have done is I've labeled myself a few mason jars with some canning lids on top. And I basically use some Scotch tape and a piece of paper, and I write down what's on it because I'm cheap that way for labeling. But if you've got the money and you want to get some simple sticky labels, I definitely recommend that you label what you have so that you know which flavors you've got instead of mixing them all up. So when you're making, to me, when you're cooking efficiently too, and you're utilizing such things as, say, a steamer, or you're making like some soups and stuff like that, and you want to cook up, say, like my best one that I use is my Ninja Foodie, basically. And that is compelling of having to put some water and pressure cooking, say, some chuck roast. I want to make shredded beef. But what happens is, as I have to put like maybe 2 cups of water in there to give it some moisture, once I pull my meat out, all the fat juices have come out. Now, the same thing. You can either take this and let this cool down in the fridge, take all the fat off the top, which is the easiest thing to do, and store this stuff as well. If you want, you can get yourself a ladle and you can kind of get the fat off the top, put it in the fridge for a little while, and the fat will actually float, the oils, before it actually turns like white and hard. I do whole chickens this way. When I'm cooking, I'll do like a pressure cook of like a whole chicken or the meat roast, and then I take it out, I'll bake the meat roast. If I do the chicken, I'll take it and I'll air crisp it all up. But take these fats, and same thing, render them in either way that I just told you guys about, label them, put them away. And how do you use them? Bacon grease is one of my favorite. Just a little tablespoon of it when you're making hash browns. Just put it on the in the pan instead of butter or cooking oil, and it actually imparts the flavor of the bacon into the potatoes. It's wonderful, yummy. You can do this with chicken. You can do it with the beef. If you're making yourself, say, some beef stock soup or something like that, you can actually get yourself some beef fat and you can place that inside of the soup just to give it a little bit of that oil. A lot of the beef broths that I buy, they don't really have much oil in them. But you get this gives it a heck of a lot more flavor. And if you're doing a paleo diet and you actually practice these things and believe in them, actually a lot of these fats are where a lot of beneficial nutrients and stuff are stored. So for flavor, everything, there's multiple usages that you can take and use with these animal fats. And why throw them away? All right, well, I'll tell you guys another one I did is tri-tip. I was doing smoked tri-tip, and what I did is I took a little bit of bacon grease and I just kind of put a little bit on top, just like a butter. Oh, the flavor! Or when you wrap up your smoking meats inside of like foil or butcher paper or something like that, you're supposed to put a little bit of like some juice in, like apple cider vinegar or something. I'll just stick a little bit of like a half a teaspoon of some of these oils, like the bacon oil with the tri-tip in. Oh, it's yummy. All right, next one we have on the list here is carrot pulp. If you're a juicer like me and you're making raw juices, do your carrots first. Do yourself a favor. That way you can separate them from, say, your apples and stuff like that. Separate that pulp, and actually what you can do is you can mix this up with some ingredients, which I have no idea, because my mom used to do this all the time. I remember as a kid, she'd make carrot bread with raisins or chocolate chips and stuff like that. But you can utilize that to make cupcakes and all kinds of different things. If you're not going to use it right away, you can take it, bag it up, or put it in a jar, label it again, and date it, and put this in your freezer and just mark it down. Know that you have it, and when you're ready to make your your carrot bread and stuff like that, you can pull it out, thaw it out, and cook it. So it's a very useful byproduct of when you're juicing. The next one I have is edible plant parts such as flowers, stalks, and leaves. Now, I think a lot of people, I know they're not, because I've been introducing them lately to one of my favorites. We'll start off with the flowers, is arugula flowers. It's got like a barbecue-y, peppery flavor to it. And this is the flower, it's just the regular flowers. You can eat the whole entire thing, the whole bulb and all of that, just as it starts to flower. Some of the best tasting, it's the best flavor so far that I've tasted on any type of flower. Zucchini flowers are edible. All pretty much brassica flowers, such as arugula, turnips, cabbage, all of these things, kale, all of these flowers are edible. They all have their different kind of flavors. Bok choy was the latest one that I've tasted, and it's okay. I think there's some beneficial things in the pollen of the flowers, but you're not going to die. They're really healthy for you. And they're good. You could be tossing salads and stuff like that as garnishes. And flowers are definitely a thing that I'm actually considering growing arugula just for the flowers, guys. The stalks of the first thing I can think of is the broccoli. A lot of people just cut the broccoli florets off and they eat that top area. But did you know that the center of the whole stalk is actually edible? The whole entire thing. Just cut off the little dried part on the end. Take I'd say about a 1/4 inch off each side, around the whole perimeter of the stalk. And when you're steaming or you're cooking, it comes out tender. If you're making soups or stews, definitely something. I mean, sometimes some of these parts, like I was telling you guys about the animal fats, take this stalk. It's like a long carrot thing, right? And you can mix yourself up a little bit of some oil, like say beef fat with some salt and lemon in it. Dip your stalks in there and just eat them like chips. A lot of things that I think people aren't aware of too is like mizuna, tatsoi, kale. What was the biggest one? I can't remember the name. It always eludes me. Swiss chard. There it is. I made myself a green soup, just all green, and the stalks of the Swiss chard were actually very, very tender. They actually come out like noodles. I think it's just a texture a lot of people aren't savvy to or exposed to. So the stalks are definitely edible on almost all brassicas. The other thing that's edible that a lot of people don't know is the leaves. You can actually eat the outer cabbage leaves, the broccoli leaves and stuff like that. You can put these into soups and stuff. Now, on their own, they're not really that flavored, like really, really good. They kind of have, especially the matured leaves, they have a very strong flavor. But added to soups and stuff, if you're really wanting to make your dollar stretch, they're once they come out in the soups and stews, they're actually delicious. You can't even really tell the difference. And again, what I'll do is I'll take myself some beef stock, chicken stock, vegetable stock, whatever, put all of my greens in there, and then what will I do? I'll go grab a teaspoon of that fat, whatever animal fats I want to flavor that thing with, say the bouillon flavors or better than bouillon and all that. It really gives a good texture and a good flavor. So obviously too, my next one is compost. I can't believe right now it bothers me every time when I make those juices that I tell you guys about, my fresh apples, celery, carrots, and all that. And I end up just throwing the pulp, all the waste in the trash can. But if I wasn't living so tiny, I would actually be able to compost this stuff, which I would really want to start doing, using such thing as bokashi. Bokashi is a really cool thing. You can do it in a 5-gallon bucket. It's odorless if done right, and you basically pickle all of your scraps, and it doesn't have that smell, and you can do this in a tiny space. I just haven't set it up yet, and actually I'm trying to get somebody on the show to talk about bokashi composting, as I think it's a really, really good thing that everybody can utilize in their lives. But yeah, definitely compost if you can, to grow all the food that you want and not let that go to waste. My next one that I never even knew, because I've been searching for stuff, is actually skin, chicken skin in particular. Take your skin, and I tried a little piece of it. It was actually really good. It dawned on me because I was doing the air fry chicken, as I told you guys about. Put the chicken inside the air fryer, and the videos and stuff I watched, the tutorial says make sure that you air fry it so that that skin, if you grab a fork or a knife or something, you can tap on it. It goes tick, 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 tick. It's just crunchy. So when you bite into the skin and the meat, it's this crunch. And I looked and I said, well, there's such things as chicharrones, I guess, the pigskin, fried pigskin, which if you're eating a paleo diet is a good substitute for chips. No carbohydrates. You know, if you want to stay away from potato chips, you know, we all know how unhealthy they are for you. Consider chicharrones. I forgot, what do they call it? Pork rinds. Pork rinds. I speak a little bit of Spanish and Russian too, so everything always gets jumbled up sometimes. But yeah, the one I didn't know is chicken skin instead of throwing it away. Put a little bit of animal fat again on it, or some butter or something like that, or lightly spritz it with some oil and some seasonings. Put it in your air fryer or in your oven. Bake it. Cook it until it gets completely crisp like a potato chip. You can make some dips and stuff with this. Try it out. I know the palate, the American palate at least, a lot of people aren't into that kind of things, but if you're eating pork rinds, pig skins, what's the difference between chicken skin and pork skins, if you like that sort of thing? My next one is, I was talking a lot about broths and making soups. My next one is bone broth. Now, I told you guys how you can buy organic chicken whole instead of parted out for a lot cheaper. I think right now, as of right now, you can find some organic chicken, not grass-fed, but you can find it for about $2.50 a pound for a whole chicken. Now, we look at breast meats, about $5 a pound, maybe even close to $6. Thighs are just under like $4.99 a pound. But you look at the contrast to a whole entire chicken. Now you're getting that skin that you can char up, right, to make chicken skin chips, or you can leave it on and cook it whole. Well, if you're going to pressure cook a chicken in a pot, a whole chicken, what you're going to have is all those fats and everything. But beyond all the fats that you're able to save in the skin, you're actually going to have the bones. That's the same thing with if you buy like a ribeye or something with bone in, any kind of steaks, any kind of meats, lamb, whatever. Lamb chops is one of my favorites. Take those bones, and that's one of my favorite things to do, is either put it in the pressure cooker, which takes energy, pressure cook those out, and what will happen is it'll release all the marrow and all the flavors of that bone, and you can make your own bone broth. One of my favorite ways to use is a thermal cookware, it's called. And basically what it is, it's a giant pot, little pot inside of a big pot, and you can find them in different dimensions. You're going to take and you're going to boil up your bones and everything. And to me, like the whole entire carcass of, like, say, the chicken is what I do. I'll throw like all the collagen, the bones, everything in there, the skin, the stuff, anything that we're not eating. You boil this up for about 10 minutes on a rolling boil straight. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take this out of the pot and you're going to stick it inside of a thermal encasing, basically, in a thermal cookware system. You're going to put that pot inside there, put the lid on top, and you're going to encase it inside this giant thermos. And what it does is it'll sit there and cook all day. It'll keep things hot for up to like 8 to 9 hours, depending on the capacity of the fluids inside, the temperature. It holds a thermal inertia. And it'll slow cook all of that marrow and everything out with no energy, just a thermal, hence thermal cooking. As you're gone at work all day or all night when you're sleeping, it releases all the yumminess out, and then you just strain all that out, and you got yourself this nice broth. So very, very good stuff to do instead of throwing those bones away. You can actually grind bones up to make bone meal for plants and things like that. I don't have that on my list here, but there's many, many things that you can do. Raw bones, actually, as well, I don't have that on my notes, is you can actually give raw chicken bones, believe it or not, to your dogs. They can crunch up even the wings with the tiny little bones. They'll crunch all that up. It's the cooked bones that they'll actually choke on. I never really gave my dog too many of these bones. I tried it out here and there. I was a little skeptical at first, but it did make sense. They know what they're doing. They have the instincts inside them. They will grind all that stuff up fine. Just do not give them cooked bones. It's one of the worst things you could do for your dog. Okay, so the next thing you do is save seeds. And I learned this from my friend Joseph Lofthouse, Actually, I've done it 2 years ago, but as far as diversity, like he said, go to your farmers markets, buy a bunch of zucchini, cucumbers, stuff like that. Gut out all the seeds, your tomatoes, and save those. Those are native seeds that you have that have been compiling years of landrace breeding. And I don't got a lot of time to go into that, but I just got my first orange bell pepper this year. I went to the grocery store and saved my seeds from the bell peppers that I bought. I bought green, red, or I bought the red. The green are in abundance usually everywhere, but I saved the seeds from the red, the brown, and the yellow. And I got and an orange. Did I say brown or red, orange, and there is a brown one and there's a purple one, I believe. But I saved the seeds and I actually got my first orange bell pepper off a plant this year. So you can go and eat your food, eat your salad, eat your bell pepper. One of my favorite is stuffed bell peppers, or say Anaheim peppers or jalapenos, things like that. Scrape out all the seeds and save them for your garden. Who would have thought? And they actually grow. Now, some of them, it's best if you're going to grow stuff for seed to let it go to its full capacity to, like, say your bell pepper turns red or your tomatoes ready to fall off the bush. That's when you get the full maturity. But if you save all those seeds that were free anyways, and you'll have so many seeds you won't even know what to do with. Plant a whole bunch of little seedlings, and it's no harm, no foul, not that much labor. Whatever lives, whatever doesn't. Okay, your next one is banana peels. There's like so many hacks that I could put in here, but one of the ones my grandfather taught me for roses was the potassium, I guess, in banana peels. And I used to make my smoothies all the time over at his house. I still do. And he would tell me all the time, save me all your banana peels. He had a whole hedge of roses. And he would just take them and toss them underneath and just kind of till them into the soil. He had beautiful roses that just throwing out flowers like nobody's business. So a lot of food scraps and things that we can utilize beyond just the banana peels. I would love to get a list. Again, if you guys are interested in something like this, maybe I can single something out and actually come up with a whole entire list for you guys. But why throw them away when they have multiple uses? Coconut husks. I buy these for my children. I buy the baby ones. So it's got the shell. What you do is you bust out the top. Well, first of all, you take off all the husks, the white husks, the juicy stuff out around the outskirts. And then I pop a little hole in the top, stick a straw in there, and we drink some coconut juice, which sounds lovely right now. And then we scrape out all the inside the meat, the white meat inside the shell by cracking open the lid about maybe a good 4 by 4 foot diameter with the corner of a knife. But now we're left with this bowl, with this seed that looks like a bowl. Now you can set that out, let all the husk, the wet husks mold and dehydrate and fall off the husk, and you can keep these things to make little decorative planters for like seed starts, or even for little tiny plants. If you get a big enough coconut, you can actually fashion these things into cooking utensils. I've seen spoons made out of these things, forks, butter knives, bowls, little tiny cups. It's so awesome. It's one of my dreams, I think, is living in the tropics and utilizing banana leaves for plates. Just line an entire table full of banana leaves. Get your food, throw it all on there, eat with your hands, like to have like a shrimp, lobster, fish, whatever, or better yet, the luau style meat where you bury it in the ground and use thermal cooking to where they'll pick up an entire roast or something, drop it on the table, and the bones and everything just shatter, and you got this tenderized meat. And and then you just wrap up all the banana leaves and throw it away. Put it in the compost or let it go sit in a place. But to have coconut husks and stuff like that to utilize would just be awesome. I mean, I can think of hundreds of different uses for these things. I've got the last one here is replanting your herbs. And I didn't put on here, actually, your vegetables as well. What do I mean by that? You can go get living herbs such as basil, thyme, oregano, and things like that. And this usually comes from a hydroponic system. It's still got the roots attached. Now you can cut off everything that you need, or maybe even leave a few leaves. Take that and bury that in the ground. I've had success growing thyme, oregano, and what was the other one I did? Dill. And I planted it the wrong season. I just wanted to see if it would grow, and it was right before winter, and it actually died off. But yeah, you can actually replant these things, but you don't really have to buy the ones with the roots on them. Right now, in my little tiny house living area, I have things such as green onions. And what you do is you take your green onions, the bunching onions that you buy, and you're going to chop off right at where the root system is. You're going to leave probably about, I would say, a good inch off of that. And just on a couple of them, I know that's some of the best part, favorite part of most people. But if you leave just about an inch with the little root ball, the little root attached to the node at the end, doesn't even have to have roots, just go and bury this into your garden soil and put it about maybe, I would say press it in about a half an inch. And guys, I have an entire planter, a container full of green onions. And basically what I did when I first experimented with this, I found some over by the dumpster. Believe it or not, of all places. I was hauling out my garbage. Somebody just threw some. It was wrapped in a rubber band on the side, on the wall. And they were just sitting there, and they looked fresh and everything. They were a little wilty by the sun. I just cut them all off, stuck them in the ground, and lo and behold, they're producing. You want to know the best part of this, too? Is that these food scraps will actually, if you let them go long enough, will produce seeds. They'll have this big giant ball on top, and you'll actually have so much green onions that you won't even know what to do with. You'll probably have about 1,000 seeds off one of these, something that you could find by the dumpster or something you're buying from the store. Now, the other thing I've done is I've went and bought myself thyme and oregano and things like that, just the bushels of them. And guys, how much money does it cost for food right now, 2021? It's crazy. I think it's like $4 or $5 just for a bushel of oregano, right? Just little stems. What I did is I took and I stripped off a lot of the leaves and everything to make my soups and Thanksgiving and stuff like that. And I just saved me about 2 or 3 of the stems with the leaves on them. And I cut down the bottom, cut down right where you'll see like little bumps, little nodes. Cut a little V shape right at the bottom of each node. You can stick these in a glass of water. My favorite thing is to get a used water bottle. And because it's got the little skinny top on it, you can just stick a bunch of these in water and watch them sprout. You can do this with thyme. You can do it with oregano, many herbs. Or my ultimate favorite is just take these sticks, poke some holes in the dirt inside of a little container garden, bury them in about about 2 to 3 inches deep, and just they sprout. Right now, I have giant bushels of thyme, both thyme and oregano. I've also done this with lemongrass. You can take the lemongrass. I took the whole entire stem. I bought it to make myself some tom kha gai soup, which sounds delicious right now. And I put that in the fridge, and I forgot about it. It got all yellow and wilty, and I looked and I said, it's not, I want to use that. So I just stuck it in a glass of water and some in the ground, and they just pop right up. Now I have bushels. I have so much lemongrass, I don't know what to deal with, or how to deal with them. The same thing with my celery stalks. Take your celery if you're buying it in the clumps, or not in the clumps, the whole piece, and you're going to take all the green stuff off. And when you get to the center, it's actually not quite that tasty. Well, save that heart with the button on the bottom, the part they cut off. I know there's no root system, but trust me, guys, just take this, bury that about an inch into the soil, and lo and behold, it will start sprouting and growing you some celery. Let this thing go, like I've done. Let it go to seed, and now I got celery popping out of everywhere, out of bricks in gravel. We got celery popping up everywhere. So things that you guys would normally throw in the garbage, you guys can actually reuse, replant, repurpose, save some money, eat healthy, help the planet out, and do it for the flavor. So yeah, there's so many things we can do with food scraps. There's so many things we could do with a lot of these things that are deemed useless. So guys, that's the show. If you liked it, please subscribe. Please give me a like. Please share the show to help me really helps me out here. And if you guys want to comment or something specific you guys want to hear, the email is down below in the description. And as I always say, guys, go out there and have yourself a near life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. And human up, my friends.